Hello everyone, and welcome. It's been a few weeks since the last time we saw each other. Whew, there's been a lot going on. Anne and I both ended up with COVID. So we've been fighting that for the last couple of weeks. I'm finally able to get out. So I was going to come out, have a cup of tea and some lunch. And we need to have a little conversation. Everybody talks about COVID. Everybody talks about the symptoms. But they don't mention all of them. Everybody fights it in different ways. Personally, I had a high fever for 4 days straight until it finally broke. And I was coughing constantly. Now I'm feeling a whole lot better. Symptoms are all gone. The only thing left is that persistent cough, but it's nowhere near as often as it used to be. Anne, on the other side, only had a fever for 1 day. And since then she's been feeling fine, but her chest is tight and she's having trouble breathing. She's on the mend as well. She's doing much better. She actually goes back to work tomorrow. So hopefully we're through with this. Now, one of the symptoms that they don't tell you about is all the 2 weeks of boredom with time for research. I did quite a bit of research in the last couple of weeks. I've made a few purchases. That's one of the reasons I'm out here today, is I want to show you one of those purchases. You'll recall in my last video, I was using a hobo stove that I had made myself. And I was talking about collapsible titanium stoves and stainless steel stoves that are collapsible, and how some of them are 150 bucks. Well, I did some research, and looking around, I came across an amazing deal. I found a stainless steel folding stove by Lixada. It's regular $21.99 Canadian. I found it at $11.99 Canadian on Amazon with a $2 off coupon, which brought it down to $9.99, and by the time I paid taxes, it cost me $11.29 for this stove. So I brought it out today. I'm going to use it to make a cup of tea and to warm up my lunch. So here's that stove. Comes in a nice little Velcro pouch. Each piece has these little tabs on them, and they just slide into one another. Here's your bottom grate. Put it in the bottom holes. Slide the top part down, making sure that it's in the proper grooves. Now, it also came with this little tray. Yes, you have to be very careful with it. Now, if you see this hole here, there's one on either side. Those are meant for this tray. As you're putting it together, if you put this tray in those holes, then you can put either a solid alcohol tablet or liquid alcohol or an alcohol gel and use it as an alcohol stove. Personally, I'm never going to use it for that. But you can put it underneath and use it as an ashtray. So on the way in, I gathered up a couple of dead branches. I'm going to take a few minutes and break those up. As I said, for $11, you can't expect too much. It is very fidgety. But let's face it, if you're on a budget, you can't expect to be getting the best gear. This is not showing that budget gear is the best gear. This is showing that you can make do with budget gear if you need to. Some of you may recall on one of my canoe trips this summer, I lost my knife. So I had to replace it with a new one. Now, I went with the same knife, but in orange so that it's easier to see if I drop it. During my research this week, I was also looking at my knife, and I think the reason I lost it is it's a plastic case, and the belt loop latches onto it, but there's also a different style of loop, so it's made so that they're interchangeable. The plastic got weak, and it popped off, and away went the knife. So this week, I found a leather case made by BPS Knives. It has an attachment for a small ferro rod, and as you can see, my knife fits beautifully inside. So now I'm going to go back and baton some wood and get ready to light this fire. We're getting ready to light the fire, but we've made some off-camera discoveries. The little alcohol dish that I was going to put underneath to try and catch some of the ashes actually sits just a bit too high, and it lifts the stove off the ground and it makes it keep wanting to fall apart. So luckily it's on a rock, so we're gonna be okay. Stretch it apart, get some nice little fibers. Okay, let that burn down, get a little bit of coals going. One drawback I found with this stove, a lot of these stoves will have a cross piece so that you've got something to set your mug on. Now, you've all seen this before. My Stanley Adventure Cup kit, and I checked it out at home. Because the bottom is rounded here, it won't sit on top. It constantly wants to fall over. I brought it anyway because I want to make a cup of tea, and it holds my mug. Now, knowing that that set didn't fit on top, I brought my other set. And the other set has my teapot, which is a lot wider and it will sit on top. And it holds the teapot nicely. So let's boil some water and make some tea. And then while the tea is steeping, I'll get ready to make some lunch. Now our water is boiling. pop a tea bag in there. Slip on a glove. And fill that up. While that's steeping, I may as well start getting lunch ready. Got the little frying pan from my kit. And a couple of nights ago, I took a head of cauliflower and I shredded it up and made cauliflower rice. I fried it up in a pan. I added red, yellow, and orange peppers, a little bit of onion, and some carrots. And basically made a little stir fry using cauliflower instead of rice. Shouldn't be too much longer. Tea is ready. Oh. A hot cup of tea when it's cool out. Fantastic. Now, as I said earlier, I did some research on Amazon this week. So far, this little stove seems to be working great. I also bought the case for my knife, which seems to be working great. I've got a gasifier stove, and I've also got another stove, twig stove, on the way. So you're going to be seeing a few videos with twig stoves. But I'll tell you more about them when I actually come out and use them. This, however, is the cheapest one I was able to find. And at $11, like I said, it's fidgety. You'd have to be very careful where you put it, because if it's off balance, they just slide in together. If it's off balance, there's a chance that it'll pop out. That's why I cleared off the top of this rock And I played with it till I found a spot that it would actually sit on all four legs properly. But it works. So you don't need to spend a fortune to be out here doing this. If you look careful enough, you could either find a way to do it yourself or find a cheap $11 stove. Once I let it burn down, I'm going to see about taking it apart and putting it back together again, just to see what kind of warpage situation we have going. But because the stove is so small, it doesn't seem to be all that bad. I measured it when I was at home. Hang on, I wrote it down somewhere. At its widest point at the base, it's 3 3/8 of an inch wide, and at the top, it's 3 1/8. So it tapers in about 1/4 inch. It's not huge, but it's cooking lunch. It made my tea. And if you're out by yourself, that's all you need. So far, works well. Well, that's going to be lunch. So I'll eat that. Might warm up the water. There should be enough in there for another cup of tea. I'll bring it back when I'm done eating. Water's hot. Time for tea number 2. And the beauty part about winter, bit of snow in the pan. Pour the last of the water that's in there out, because I won't be using it. That heat's going to melt the snow, and it should boil off whatever's stuck to the bottom of the pan, which isn't very much. And once again, that stove is by Lixada. I actually have my old stove here. Maybe I'll pull that out and show you the difference between the two. So here's my old stove, the one I've been using for quite a while, as you can see. Again, a nice canvas pouch. But this one is hinged. It all stays together. Here's your base plate. Put the hinge in. Comes with a pin. Stick it down in the hole. And that is not going anywhere. And it comes with the cross pieces that you set on top. And now I can put any size pot I want on there. I could even put my little dinky plastic cup on there if I want. But that shows you the size comparison. This one I measured at home. And it's 5 1/4 at the bottom and 4 3/4 at the top. So it's a much bigger stove. Works the same, just gives you more room for wood. That being said, I've used this one quite a few times before, and this one chews through the wood like crazy. You start putting wood in there because it's a bigger box, you're putting a lot of wood in there just to be able to get the same thing done. Whereas this tiny one, I barely used any wood at all. That's why I cut so much wood, is because I'm used to using that big one. Now that the snow is melted and the water is hot, I'm just going to lightly rub it with my spoon here. And it won't be perfect, but it'll make the cleanup a whole lot easier when I get home. And like I said, not perfect, but easier to clean when I get home. So now you can get a better view of the different size stoves. This one is way smaller, but it did the trick. I was able to drink my tea. I had a nice hot lunch. Used a lot less wood than I would in the big stove. That being said, I still prefer the bigger stove. One, because it's got the pot stand. Two, because it's all together. Once I drop that locking pin in place, that stove ain't going nowhere. Whereas with this, if I try that, now that it's cooled down, it seems to be holding fairly tight. But as soon as you lift it a little bit, it comes apart fairly easy. I had to, before I got a chance to light it, I had to put it back together about 5 times. But on a budget, your options are spend more money, get something that'll hold together better, save money on the stove, spend a bit more time fiddling with it. Now, you might also be able to, once it's together, bend the tabs just a little bit so that it holds a little better. That might work. Haven't tried it, but now that we've had a fire in it, now that we've taken it apart, let's see if it'll go back together. So it's still a bit fidgety, but it does go back together. I guarantee you I could use that again and make another tea, make more lunch. So all in all, for $11.29, is it worth the hassle? Sure, why not? And being that small, that's easy to stick anywhere. In your backpack, in your glove compartment. You could even stick it in a pocket if you wanted to. But it's something that you could stick in a backpack and leave there. And if ever you're stuck, you've got a stove to heat your water or do what you need to do. This one, in the winter months, is usually in my backpack. In the summer months, I've taken to sticking it in my canoe barrel. That way when I'm out in the canoe, if I have to stop somewhere because of weather going bad or whatever, I've got something I can use to boil water, warm up my food, do whatever I need. So all in all, for the price, I don't think that's a bad little stove. Like I said, a little fidgety. You have to be a little more careful with it, but it does the job. But that's going to be it for today. I'm going to put these stoves away, strap on my snowshoes, and head back for home. So if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button, and if you're going to do that, you may as well hit the notification bell. It'll let you know whenever I put out a new video. Thanks for watching. Glad to have you along, and we'll see you on the next one.